The S&P 500, the Nasdaq 100, we're jumping right into it. Now, the first things I want to say is out of the gate this morning, we saw roughly like 7 a.m. We had some data come out with ADP jobs, basically private jobs, and we saw that number come out pretty high. We almost double of the expected, which wasn't really good. Once that came out, we kind of started to see that decline, and it really happened all throughout the morning to like 10 a.m. Central. So we can see that decline happens, and we're pushing down. We hit about 15.1. 15.15, and that's where we kind of bottom out at. So we go to the 4 hour. As you can see, this is kind of how we're forming. Now, what I want to say from this zone is that you can clearly see that we bounce back with a lot of strength around 10.20 into the end of the day. Okay, now we go into something like ES. We look at what happened here. Very similar action, pushing down. Didn't hit 4,400 flat, but 4,420 give or take, and then you bounce around 10.20 and you're pushing back up. Common denominator here, you're pushing up during London close, which is very interesting. If we also look at kind of what was happening, beneath this is Bookmap. The link is down below. You can check them out, giving you a visual on the heat map. You can see that we had liquidity at around 44.35. Nothing huge, but you would drop down and then you would slowly stagnate. And then you drop again, another liquidity level, slowly stagnate. And this happened over and over and over. Now, typically what we've seen over the past few weeks and days is when you break some of these levels, you get continuation in a direction pretty quick. So that was really interesting. That took us about 2 hours to find a bottom, and we moved so slow. Then we saw that giving that amount of time, we started to see buyers just step back into the market and definitely hold us up around 44.20, which obviously we bounced back above. But like giving you a better visual. So you can see that we go through some of these smaller liquidity levels and we just shoot up to the next one. There's over and over and over. And ultimately sellers try to hold you down with a lot more liquidities and buyers try to hold you up, and you push back up over and over and over until the end of the day. Very interesting behavior to say the least. There were no really big icebergs. Want to say that right now. You had some near the end of the day, but that's pretty much it. Okay, so going over this, the big bullet points here. So far, NQ, in my opinion, a higher time frame is 4 hour, 1 day, weekly, whatever you want to talk about. You're still making higher lows. That's a good note. You did put in a lower high here, but I still think you look decent where you're at. Okay, now if we think about everything that's happened this week, in my opinion, nothing really worth of good news has happened. If anything, it's been a week full of bad news. Again, my personal opinion. We had the Fed minutes, which basically said that a bunch of members still wanted to raise rates. We had, jobless claims come out, and they are not benefiting the market. Data is not necessarily benefiting the market either. So I just want to highlight that nothing good came out this week. However, we're still making a higher low, and we're still bouncing, and buyers are showing more strength relative than sellers. Now, that being said, I will say one thing. Volume is still very low. We can go to Yahoo Finance, and this is what I recommend to look at volume. It's just the quickest and easiest way to look at it. Now, we had 79 mil, which I'm actually surprised. I did not realize it was that high. But still, this isn't like a breakout volume of 100 mil or, 70 mil, whatever it may be. Maybe. Or at 80 mil, it's decent. It's decent volume. And I'm still surprised that we're getting this volume after, a holiday like it was. So I want to just caution a little bit of like slowing as you're going to the end of this week, because we do have earnings coming up very soon, and that's going to be kind of like the next big dictating force on the market, which leads me into a few other things. Now, before we go into that, I do have to ask you, consider liking and subscribing. Every day we make videos for you, so you are prepared. Discord link is down below if you're interested. I recommend not joining if you're brand new to trading. We have a lot of free stuff here. Go to home, go to education. You get all of the free tools, tips. We make these every single week, so make sure you check them out. Now, when we go back here, I'm going to say this really quick. Personally, when I'm looking at this, and I have to continue to say the same thing because I think people, I don't know how people misinterpret it. When I'm entering plays right now, I'm not necessarily talking too much about scalping. I have an occasional day trade and occasional scalp, but my focus right now is setting up more swing trades. Like, for instance, today and yesterday, as we moved so much on AMD into 117, Google into 122, 123, I slowly started to exit some of that position. I still have a bulk of that position, but I freed up more liquidity. Just in case we get a dip, I can add back into the position, get the average down, etc. Like, that's the focus, right? It's actively trading. But I'm not looking to scalp or take weekly contracts. That doesn't have too much interest for me. But I do think we're going to get opportunities time and time again, right? We're not just going to go up in a straight line. So I do like what we're getting here. I like the consolidation. I like the slow downside doesn't make me too uneasy. I still like how we're moving, and overall, I still think you're very strong. Clearly in an upward channel going back to April 24th with one false breakout to the upside there. So you still look really good. Now, that being said, usually I wait to the end of the video, go over some stocks I like, but I'll do that kind of here in the early on. I like Meta a lot. Meta pushing back down here in the after hours has me pretty excited. So this is what I did here. I'll just be really clear. I closed the majority, all my position that I had this morning around market open when he started to double top here, a little bit lower, like around 296-ish on Meta. Now, from this, I still love the position, and I still think it has a lot of upside. But what I'm doing personally is aiming for more longer dated contracts because those were obviously shorter dated for July. So I'm looking more for November and October. And that's just how I'm looking to play this. So I started adding a position and starting a position around 295. And I'm looking to basically finish the position around 290 to 289. The reason why, this was our breakout point going back to that ascending triangle. Again, if you haven't seen this, it's also on Twitter, so you can check it out. Also, the threads, we have that going on for Instagram right now, so make sure you check it out if you're following on Instagram. We can just post a lot more on there. That's why we like it. But anyways, right, we go back to, to Meta. Preparing for liftoff, what we're looking for, a breakout above that key level. The levels don't change, right? So right now what we're looking for is a break, retest, and hopefully pushing back up. But I think Meta is in a really good position to do well. But I do want to warrant some caution there because Meta is apparently being threatened to be sued from Twitter because I guess they're copying their app. What I will say is I don't know how you can attack one company for copying and not the 7 others. That's a very interesting perspective. Also, Meta doesn't have a lot of the features that Twitter does. Very interesting topic. I think by Twitter even acknowledging Meta on day one of their release, this really solidifies the strength of what Threads is doing. Threads is already at 30 million subscribers, and that was as of like 11 a.m. this morning. I can only assume that they're closer to 40 to 50 million. It's worth mentioning that's not even being released to Europe yet. Food for thought. It took other companies and social media apps. I think the quickest was around 6 to 7 weeks to 100 million. Meta is almost halfway, almost 40% of the way there in under 24 hours. Take that into consideration. This could be a major jump for Instagram, a major jump for Meta as a whole, and open up a whole new revenue stream, essentially taking out one of its lead competitors. I will also say Twitter's under a lot of flack with what Elon's doing. I'm not here for woke America or whatever you're into. I don't care politically. But from a political standpoint, I can see how Meta could take more dominance from this area and steal a lot of users. It makes a lot of sense. And it ties right back into their Instagram and Facebook accounts. So this is a very strategic move by what Zuckerberg's doing. He's the best copycat that ever lived, and I think he just did it again. I really like Meta. I think they have a lot of room to the upside. Dated positions, that's what I'm looking at. So going a little bit further, I talked about AMD yesterday. I talked about the hold that you had around 111, and needless to say, it couldn't have gotten any better. We look at what happened today. You drop down to that 111 marker. As you can see, you hold there. You start bouncing back up pretty quickly. Picture perfect, back at 113, exactly what we want to see. Hopefully get back above 114 and get confirmation. We started to see a little bit of love come back into semiconductors today, which was a good viewpoint, but also too, you're still red on the day, so I want to highlight that. But again, opportunity was definitely all across the board. Going into some of the names in SPY, which also had me excited. And I think if you're watching ES, I think it's important to understand what's dropping in that specific index and what's moving up. Now, even though ES was dropping, some of the biggest names in SPY, Apple, looked really good on the day. Very green. Some of the other names we look at, Microsoft, big name in SPY, green on the day. These names were consistently green all day long, even though we had a big drop this morning. Just worth mentioning, bouncing on major supports. These are also names, specifically Microsoft, that has been retracing, which I've been saying we need to be watching for on a key breakout. Microsoft did break all-time highs, but it got rejected right back down. Very similar to what happened with Apple, if you do remember. We talked a lot about this. You broke all-time highs, dropped down, slingshot back up. I'm not saying you're going to go crazy on Microsoft, but I still don't think Microsoft is done. I still think they have room. And this just ties right back into Meta. If Apple, Microsoft are doing good, I tend to side with other names in the top 5 companies or the FANG names inside of SPY. Something to consider, something to watch. I'm definitely watching it for myself. Google still have a few of these, still like it overall. Now that's the names I'm liking. Going into some of the more fundamental aspects of the market, things I'm watching there. Oil, still very weak. And again, some people are watching this like on, smaller time frames. If you're watching oil on smaller time frames, God help you. I'll pray for you. So hopefully you can get some clarity on understanding how commodities move. We look here at the descending triangle that's forming. You're still here. Nothing's really changed. You're bouncing with the market. All in all, XLE is getting destroyed today. It's actually one of the biggest sectors to get hit on the day was energy names. So I don't have too much confidence in crude right now either. Gonna say it right now. We go into DXY. Still very weak here as well. You came to the top of the range, getting rejected a little bit here. Need to see more information, but still in the downtrend. Nothing else to really update you there. The big red flag, like I've been saying for days now, is the total inversion that's happening on the 10 versus 30-year yield. This has to be the number one concern in the market, and definitely highlights a lot of concern for me. What I will say, and it's something that I said earlier on the live stream today, we're live every day, 10:30 a.m. Central, but something I want to say about this behavior is when we go back to last year to when we made a lot of money shorting, and even this year when you had your inversion back in March, I can only say this so many times. The big thing that was happening during all these inversions is you had a lot of really bad news that was announced from the Fed. I think we could still raise rates, it's 100% possible, but I want to say that raising rates 0.25 will not cause the economy to crash or drop drastically, in my opinion. If anything, it's kind of getting priced in as we speak. We'll still have a little bit of a reaction if it happens, but again, that's the real big bullet point for me. So looking at this inversion, it's not as concerning as it was last year because I also think we're near the peak on rates. As you peak on rates, I think you have to come to the expectation that you're going to peak on yields. This is the one time that I wouldn't be playing this, and I'm not playing this personally unless things change drastically across the market. I just want to give you that update there as well. Also, too, we saw gold get rejected and pushed back down. Very concerning. VIX, the last thing I want to cover here. Everyone was screaming this morning, VIX is pumping. It's pumping. Oh, my God. Well, guess what? VIX pumped, and then it dumped. Just saying, right? You're seeing the same story over and over. We see, and we saw it with volume today. We saw sellers try to step in with volume. It's decent volume, not great. But then they're met by a brick wall. They can't get followed through after they break key levels, and then you just stop and buy or step right back in. Again, Bookmap gives you the best visual. As you can see at lows, you just slowly trail to the downside. Buyers slowly start positions, and then you bounce back up. I'm just saying, it is what it is. Don't shoot the messenger. Going in, and I've been getting a lot of requests here. What's happening with premium on options? I'll go over this a little bit. I haven't been super interested in it, but I think we're getting back to the point where flow will be more important. Going to tell you that now. We look at SPY specifically. A lot of puts coming in here, but again, 700s. Not interested in these. These aren't concerning whatsoever for me. Okay, not at all. Probably someone selling these. Just going to tell you right now. Okay, so that's what's going on here. There's nothing really crazy. There's nothing really for me to even see or pay attention to. We go into QQQ. You have some coming in for dated, 2024, September, possibly a hedge. That's the more concerning position there. Still not too interested. VIX, it's funny. You saw people get crushed on these positions today as well. SPX, again, a lot of these positions are just not super concerning for me. Most likely see a strangle happening here as well. But again, it's not something that I'm super interested in hammering home. And you haven't been able to see as good as flows we were seeing way back when. So it's why I'm not paying as much attention to this. And I just want to bring this, up in the video because I haven't as of recent and make sure people know and kind of what I'm watching here specifically. Again, favorite name on the market right now. I'm telling you right now, it's Meta. If you hold above 290, I love it. It's my favorite play. Looking for November, October positions for myself. They're a pretty penny, but I think they're worth it, and I think they'll make money. Again, you have earnings coming up next week, and the week after that, I think bank earnings start next week, and then after that, you start to get the tech earnings. So earnings season back upon us, and this kind of is what started the big rally that we're getting right now was earnings. So again, pay close attention, be safe. I love what's happening. I love the, once again, opportunity that we're getting. And you don't get this too often. Have a good one, traders.